All right.
Like a poor man's fucking Twilight Zone here. Which is
Twilight Zone?
nowhere near as good.
Bacon. Bacon,
Bacon,
1040.
940. Oh Jesus! The more I talk about this movie, the more I fucking hate it.
Damn.
All right, here we go. The boys are back in town. 3, 2, 1. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Nightcap.
Back from hiatus.
Back from a hiatus, from a little extended COVID hiatus.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys.
What are you guys drinking tonight?
I am drinking Tropical Pog Hefeweizen that I got from Costco. Always a good deal. I just took a sip. I just took a sip of it. It's not very good.
Oh, really?
Really?
Yeah, that's not very good.
Take a bigger one.
We're going to score that at the end of this.
Maybe it's a gulper.
We'll leave it at that. Yeah.
What about you, Rich? What do you got?
Truly mango.
Nice.
Oh, can't go wrong. Can't go wrong with that.
Going with a little Manta Ray, Ballast Point. Hops.
Yeah. Well, you know how I feel about IPA, so let's get this shit show on the road.
All right. Speaking of,
You sure you don't want another drink?
Well, I think people can already tell how much we like this movie before we even hop right back into it. So I'm glad we're starting off on a positive note, right? So tonight's movie is Vast of Night. Let's go through. I'll run through a little quick synopsis, and then we'll jump into our points on it. The Vast of Night is a 2019 American science fiction mystery film directed by Andrew Patterson, starring Sierra McCormick and Jake Horowitz, both actors I'm not familiar with. No. The film is set in 1950s New Mexico. A young switchboard operator and a radio disc jockey discover a mysterious audio frequency that could be extraterrestrial in origin. The movie came out in 2019 at the Slamdance Film Festival, and Amazon Studios acquired the rights. And it was released in May of this year. It kind of came up on my radar slowly. I kept seeing it in my feed and stuff, and it seemed like it had decent reviews. So I was looking forward to seeing this movie. It seemed intriguing. The artwork on it seemed pretty cool. It's kind of like almost like a modern take on a Twilight Zone, I guess, right?
Don't you dare! Don't you dare! Don't you dare! Because they said like this was like a modern take on Twilight Zone. It even had like the little bootleg Twilight Zone. The Paradox Theater. Like they even had the intro sounded like Rod Sterling.
I thought it was kind of cool. I like that.
Yeah, and I was like, that's what
looked cool.
With that beginning, I was just like, I'm hooked. Like this could be really good because I love Twilight Zone, guys. Like one of the best shows ever. I'll say it. Right. One of the best shows ever. And then after that, it just went downhill, guys. It went downhill and quick. Guys. All right. So yeah, man.
Rich, what did you think? What did you think of the overall story of this?
The overall story, the plot and everything. I liked the mystery thing about it. I liked how it was almost like ground level and not too overly done. They brought it into two characters' point of view. Granted, the banner was kind of a little much, but it was like two buddies found a frequency, looked it up. And you just kind of followed them through the story, through the mystery of what that frequency was. So I thought it was good. I didn't have anything wrong against the plot. It wasn't horrible at all. I gave it a 7.
Yeah, I gave it a 6. I thought, to me, it felt very like Steven Spielberg-esque. Yeah, at least in the beginning. I thought I was going to kind of take this more of like an adventure mystery route. And you're going to see these kind of kids like take off and kind of explore this.
Like a Goonies type of thing.
Yeah, almost. You're right. Yeah. But like Al said, it definitely didn't live up to those expectations that I had. No. I gave it a 6, but we'll get to the directing later on how I thought they actually pulled that off in the execution. But let's talk about something I actually gave the highest score was the production and specifically the cinematography. You could see a lot of creativity, like with the camera angles and that long sequence in the beginning, where they're introduced the main character and he's walking through the gym and all that. And then also too, there's that one scene where they cut across the whole town, right? It was like continuous scene where it just tracks across. Like that was really cool. There was a lot of little parts like that I thought were cool.
Was that where she was running?
No. This was like when it was just like, it was like the long tracking shot throughout the entire town, back to the gym, from the switchboard to the gymnasium, to the...
It almost looked like it was on a drone that followed the ground. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Whole thing.
Yeah, so definitely there was a lot of good tracking shots, and those are the ones I really like from here. Yeah, so I kind of maybe like kind of didn't give the production as much as I should have. I gave it 11 just because there's besides those like the cinematography, there was really nothing else because this was such on a shoestring budget. It was $1 million budget for like this whole shebang. So that's unheard of, especially nowadays, you know. And so I gave it 11 out of 20 just because there wasn't really much to grade there. It's pretty much the set was the gymnasium, the switchboard, the little shack that was supposed to be the radio station,
and the cars,
and then that was it. And then pretty much probably the lion's share of the budget was, spoiler alert, the spaceship at the end. That's it.
Yeah.
All right, that was a big payoff, guys, and it wasn't much of a payoff. All right.
We didn't get to see any little green men. Spoiler alert.
No.
I'll say what's disappointing in terms of production was just the time error. There's a lot of great music, you know what I mean? And there, I felt like they could have squeezed something in. I mean, the guy works at a radio station. You could have found excuses to use some of that great music and kind of, you know, supplant it in, which they didn't do. And then also too, kind of the vibe of the movie is very mysterious. Like the soundtrack didn't really live up to that, to kind of boost that mood. Instead, it just felt like a stale night, you know what I mean? And you know, you're watching the characters try to figure out the mystery, but we kind of already know, like, okay, this is, you know, extraterrestrial.
I think that's what kind of killed it, is we already knew.
Yeah.
And we already knew the direction it was going. So the mystery lost its mystery, really.
And even with the long tracking shots, like they build that tension because you're just following and following and following, but there was never any payoff. There's not really any action. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even the ending is kind of anticlimactic. So as much as I even like those, it was, you know, I don't know. Definitely kind of a frustrating film. I did give the production a 17 because I did think that the cinematography was pretty cool. I like the color casting on it. You know, the way it was kind of muted, like to kind of fit the era. I thought that was cool too. And the costumes and stuff. Everything looked great. But
it was New Mexico. I mean, it wasn't going to be like, you know, bright lights of Hong Kong. But and going back to a little bit of the music, definitely they could use the music because, like you said, that he was legit in the radio station. But going back to the budget, they probably didn't have money to get the rights for any cool, like, you know, songs from the 50s. So and then there was really no soundtrack. The soundtrack to this whole movie was those weird humming noises that was coming from the radio, and that was it. And
there wasn't any soundtrack, was there? No. I don't remember hearing any kind of music.
Just
I guess there was some creepy sounds.
Atmospheric,
the lady was like
stuff.
Yeah, when she was telling her story, but
nothing in regards to like score or anything like that. Like nothing.
Yeah.
Even when I can't even remember. It was such a unmemorable movie. Like even when they showed like the spaceships, you don't really hear anything. You don't.
No, it's silent.
Nothing.
Yeah, nothing. I mean, I'm guessing they did it on purpose to kind of build, like I said again,
I guess
that kind of mood, but it just all felt anticlimactic, and it didn't even the buildup was slow. It was a slow burn, you know. So you're just like, okay, like what's going to happen?
The whole movie was a slow burn. I mean, you kind of set you up for that with that 15-minute conversation babble. You timed it out. You told me about it earlier. I did not.
It wasn't 15 minutes. It was 21 minutes really in the beginning.
20 minutes.
No, I looked at it because I was just like, how much more talking can they do about nothing? And I looked at the clock. I was just like, holy shit. Yeah. It's been 21 movies. And this movie's only an hour and a half, guys.
Yes.
And a third of that was them talking about nothing in the beginning.
And you know what bugged me too, though? In the beginning, the banter, it was so quick. It didn't feel natural. It felt scripted.
It was just
because he was just
like one-liners.
One-liners, trading back and forth. And that's kind of gets me into the acting point for Everett's character. I just wasn't a fan of the guy. He just wasn't. He was the main protagonist here, and he just wasn't likable to me. He was just a little, smart aleck, guy.
Yeah, he was like a prick.
Fast talking guy.
He really was fast talking guy, and I just wasn't. I just didn't really care for him in general.
He kind of reminded me of a salesman.
Was okay, but his character, I don't know. I just wasn't too crazy about him. I don't think he did necessarily a bad job acting. I mean, I guess it's he had to read the way the script was written, but I don't know.
But you know what? That says a lot when honestly. There's only two characters in the whole movie with just very subtle moments like that old lady and then the kid and the friend. For that to turn you off, that's kind of bad. You know what I mean? When especially two characters during the whole movie. So that's a very important thing.
When it's a movie of this type where it only focuses on one person, two people, they got to come with it. And they gotta come with it. And like like I don't know, like I haven't heard of these actors. I haven't seen anything else that they've been in. I mean, granted, I gave the acting 16 just because they weren't distracting and like bad acting. It was okay. So, but they didn't like come out of me, especially what Rich said. The focus is on you two. And they didn't give like any memorable moments, any memorable.
And even the minor characters, even like for instance Billy, the guy that calls in on the radio show, right? And he tells his story. That was a snooze fest. I'm sorry, but I've heard better stories on Coast to Coast. You know what I mean? Where I know the story's false, and I'm like, this is still more interesting. Like it was just so slow, and I get that was maybe part of it. He was trying to do like that. This is really sincere. You know, I'm an old man, and this is my death wish.
You know what this felt like? This felt like you know the World of Worlds, like back then. This felt like a serial radio show that could have gone on back then. That they had like weekly episodes where it wasn't really meant to be in the silver screen. It was meant to just be heard and like you picture it yourself.
I could totally see that. Kind of like a story just being told.
Or like, you know, to be in a bit of more like modern take, like it sounds like
you know. Hold on, sorry.
It seems like it could be like a modern day podcast, like you know, like a serial podcast where
bring it on that subject. Is that why the director during that time when he was calling the calling guy, he would just black out the screen a couple times? So
I believe so. Yeah, I believe so. Where so maybe you could just really focus in and like picture what he's saying.
Because that was distracting for me. I thought it was weird.
You know what was weird for me too is like when he takes off and they go to find the old lady on set, like what's happening on the radio at this time? Well, before the power went out, because there's that switchboard. The switchboard. Like so they just take off. I don't know. I thought that was a little strange to me too, but. There was so many things. Even the older lady, when they go and visit her, I thought that was an awesome opportunity to be like, to kind of turn up the creepy factor. And that was another thing. That was another thing in this movie too. I'm like, okay, who's this geared towards? It's like not really like geared towards necessarily adults. It's not a rated R movie, obviously. Not that it has to have sex and not that it has, exactly. Or it has to have swearing or anything. But at the same time too, it wasn't really towards kids. It was like kind of like straddling the line of like what it wanted to be. And so I thought like that period, I'm like, okay, let's make this creepy. You have this old lady, she's here in this house. But even her whole story was just like you said, it just felt so flat. And then I'm like, man, I don't know. I didn't feel any desperation in this lady. I didn't even feel the crazy really. She just kind of seemed like a saddled.
I felt bad for her. Like I felt bad for her the whole time.
She came off more pathetic than anything. You're just like, geez.
Right.
Yeah, like
and
then when they were like,
language,
now I still felt bad for the old lady.
Yeah, because like even their introduction, the introduction of her had potential when like they walk into this creepy old house, lights are off. You hear her say back here, and then when they walk in, she was, you know, saying all these like weird words, and you're thinking, okay, and the next thing you know, they don't really touch on that until like later on. It's just a throwaway almost, just to break the monotony of them being in the switchboard or like the radio show.
No, you know what it was? They needed a reason for them to pull over in that car, so they probably threw in that voice so those people could look up, so they could get all crazy and end the movie and get out and walk away.
Yeah. And then, like, they didn't even expand on that. She was just like, take these words. Like, take these words and, like, say it to everyone to see if, are they, like, is this Invasion of the Body Snatchers? Or, like, what are we doing here? Like, it didn't make any sense. Like, it didn't go anywhere. Thank you.
Yeah.
It didn't.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's very frustrating. Because, like I said, I think that the idea on paper to me is a cool idea. But it just fumbled throughout the whole movie. And then it just never hit you with the real, like... No. You know what you're asking for, and so there was so many missed opportunities. So let's, without further ado, let's get into the director. Now, this is, I guess, his debut as a director, right? Here, and you know, I don't know, man. I mean, it's kind of hard for me to come up with anything super positive. I think on score, I gave him a 14. I just think the story itself was just there was no payoff. You know, it was a slow, like we said, and it was anticlimactic even towards the very end. The characters, I don't know, they were, you know. Everett, obviously, I didn't care for him too much. The other characters were just kind of milquetoast for me. And so, like I said, I feel like they couldn't decide what they wanted this to be.
Yeah, like there was nothing memorable about this movie. This whole movie, to me, was forgettable. Like,
was this one of those indie movies? It felt like an indie movie.
Well,
it was a small company. Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget the production company, but it was small.
Yeah, it's $1 million. Like, was the whole budget for this movie. And directing, I gave it out of 15 out of 30 just because.
GED Cinema was the name of the company. I never heard of them.
Yeah, okay. I just couldn't get over that hump of like the first 21 minutes was just like onslaught of just dialogue that went nowhere. And then I just couldn't get over that. And then like the only thing that saved this was like, the tracking shots that we mentioned during the production. Yeah. And I don't know if we could credit that to the director or anything. And then the blackout scenes that Rich touched upon, they were like, it was just weird because it happened like a couple times and it was just like, boom, it just faded to black. And you think like, did something happen to my TV? Or like,
I actually thought that the first time.
Too. Yeah.
And then it faded back and I was like, okay. All right.
Like, hey, the picture went out, but the voices. So yeah, man. Like,
I give it a 20 for his debut. I liked his choice photography, the way it moved. Granted, the plot wasn't all there. I mean, it was a slow burn, but I actually think he was. I think he was going for the slow burn, though.
Here's the thing. Let's
his whole point. He was making it very artsy.
Let's time out about this whole slow burn shit. In order to be a slow burn, there had to be a payoff at the end, and there wasn't really a payoff. Oh, bullshit! Because we already know it was that was going to be a UFO. There was nothing.
Yeah.
No, this is like slow burn. No. This was a smoldering fire. Well,
here's the thing. It's still burning.
It's still burning. It's still burning.
It's
still burning, and the food is cold somehow. I don't even know how that even makes sense. This was like that when you go to the restaurant and you take forever for your food, and then it finally comes out and it's disappointing. And you're just like, Jesus Christ, we should just went somewhere else. That's what I felt like on this one.
I'll say this.
Look, we've been pretty hard on this movie. This wasn't the worst movie I've ever seen. But
that was Way of the Gun.
Cult classic. One of my faves. But it just didn't really go anywhere either. I don't know if they just played it too safe. I don't know how you want to attack it, but yeah. All right, let's get into our X Factors. Al, 10? Do I smell a 10?
No, I gave it a 2. I gave it a 2.
Lowest X Factor yet.
I gave it a 2 just because, one, I hated this movie. No, the lowest X Factor I gave was Way of the Gun. I gave it a 0.
Fine movie,
and I was
in there for that one, so I didn't.
Yeah. I wanted to give it a negative, but let's not get into that. I gave this a 2 just because I don't know if they're gonna make like a sequel in terms of like more stories based on like this whole bootleg Twilight Zone Paradox Theater. That's the only kind of intrigue I have in terms of like X Factor for this one. But yeah, and I can't believe people are actually saying this was kind of like a modern day Twilight Zone episode. Watch your mouth. All right, that's such blasphemy right there.
You're white knighting for the Twilight Zone right now.
Yeah. No.
Rich, what'd you give it?
2 out of 10, guys.
I gave it a 5. Just for keeping it kind of grainy and the way the cinematography was. I thought that was the coolest part. I mean, the blackout scene sucked, where I thought my TV broke. But I did like how it was kind of grainy, and I don't know, I just thought it was cool the way he shot it and everything. It had potential to be more. If he would have done more to the plot to move it along and brought it up a speed, but kept that same cinematography, it probably would have been a really, really cool movie.
We don't score it based on potential. All right. All right. This could have been a great movie, so I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. No. This movie was shit.
Listen to what I said.
Rich, thank you for being the good cop. All right, because I was coming hard right
now. What you need to hear.
All right,
I gave it a 5 because it's like a modern day Twilight episode.
All right, I gave it a 4. All right, and I think for all the reasons that we talked about, I think it was just kind of fumbled. I thought the initial idea was cool, but it was just didn't go anywhere. I don't know. Didn't really care for the characters. But I will say, if they did do another one, and maybe even if it wasn't connected to this story, if they really took it like in the vignette and took it to a different story, I might watch it. I might give it a chance because I think the style and like you talked about the cinematography and all that stuff, I thought it was cool idea, but it just ultimately didn't come together. So maybe the second one, if it is the same director, maybe he'll, sharpen it up a little bit.
I'd be interested to see where he goes with his next movie. Not necessarily tied to this. I'd be interested to see what his next movie is, just to see.
Before we sign off, one more gripe about this movie.
What grinds your gears, Al? Tell us.
It's really grinding my gears. All right, they went through all that trouble, right? Get the camera to take a picture or whatever the hell this was. Literally, they were in front of this UFO for I don't know how long. Camera was right there, guys. Yep. Camera right there. Didn't even like bother to like take nothing. I don't know if they were just in awe or whatever. No, you went through all that trouble to get the camera.
They were getting turned into sand. That's what.
You know what they should have did? You know what they should have did as a cliffhanger? They should have left the camera right there, like the last shot. You see the camera sitting in the dirt, and then you think, okay, cool. They're going to show you the image of what they caught. The last thing they saw before they disappeared. That would have been at least intriguing.
But we saw what they disappeared.
No, they showed like they showed the tape recorder at the end along with the dust. But like,
if they would let the camera next to it, then the story could pick up there, and someone else tries to put the pieces of the mystery together, right, and keeps going or whatever.
No, because one, I don't want to see a damn
for a part
sequel.
2. I don't think this is going to get a sequel. I don't think it's
no.
Well, not after they watch L's review, that's for sure. All right, final score. I gave it a 57. What'd you guys give it? And let's wrap this up.
62. I gave it a 49.
49, nice. Okay, and Flick, you give it a 62.
62.
Okay.
Man, Rich is feeling generous today.
Yeah. What was Rotten Tomatoes? I know it was higher than us. I want to say it was like much higher than this, actually.
I don't know. Like they must have spent some of this budget to pay off Rich. I don't know.
61. My math is wrong.
Well, math is hard, even with calculators. Anyways,
I don't know.
It's nice to be. I'll say this: it's nice to be back. But this obviously didn't get us all on the positive note. Hopefully, the next movie will be much better than this.
I hated this movie. I hated this beer. I don't know, man.
That's true. October's coming around. We got to do our we do a horror.
We are every week, guys. Horror movies galore. All right.
Good ones, bad ones, in between ones. All right. Well, let's call it a wrap on Vast Night.
Yeah, let's.
You tried.
We tried. Lord knows we tried. And have a good night. Have a good vast of night.
Here's to slow burns.
Slow burning.